A few months back, Kizer went a little bit crazy and started pumping out some really high quality knives. And this model, the Quoll, was one of those. Titanium handle, premium blade steel of S45 VN, and of course this really crazy Damascus handle inlays. Now when you think of Kizer, you don't really think of a premium knife like this. You typically think of them coming around the budget range, somewhere around the $50 to $80 price mark. Yet this knife right here, has a retail price of a whopping $299.99. So $300. Now that's a hell of a lot for a knife. Maybe not for some of you, but to me, that's more than my car payment. So it's a heck of a chunk of change. I thought the knife was super cool looking, no doubt, but at this price point, it was 100% out of my reach. Now here comes the crazy part, because I was able to get this knife without spending a single cent, not even a dime out of my own pocket. Now I know what you're probably going to think. I was probably sent this knife to review on the channel or something, but that actually couldn't be further from the truth, as Kizer has yet to even respond to one of my emails. The kicker is, I was able to get this knife for free off a single doodle, just a really simple sketch, because who knew that all those doodles during class would actually pay off? Because one of these doodles was able to garner enough attention to put my name and one of my designs on the map. So today I'm going to tell you how a really simple little doodle turned into a $300 knife. It must have been a pretty good doodle to get this guy for free, right? Well, not exactly. So a few months back, Kizer announced they were running a contest for everyone to design a knife and submit it in to be voted on, and then the winner would receive a contract from Kizer to get their design put into production. They ran this exact same contest last year, and it was extremely popular, so they decided to run it again. Now some quick background about me. I've been doodling my entire life, whether it just be paper and pen, Sharpie, Snapchat during class, acrylic paint, and now the recent pickup of paint pens. So I like to think I've been kind of creative most of my life. Yet the idea of designing a knife did not come easy to me at all. In fact, my mind was completely blank trying to come up with a folding knife, and I instead went the easier route and started mocking up some really simple fixed blades. Fixed blades are just so much more simple than folding knives, as it's just a handle and a blade, and you don't have to worry about folding mechanisms, crazy ergos, pocket clips, etc. So I started really simple and just started sketching out some very rough concepts until I ended up with something I didn't absolutely hate. And from there, I took a step backwards and I did not trust my artistic ability, and I instead generated a realistic image of it online. And as much as I'd love to be able to produce a result like this with just pen and paper, this method ended up looking much nicer and actually easier to really visualize as a real product. So now with this mock-up, I came up with a really small backstory about going off a visual theme, especially looking something like post-apocalyptic and battle-worn. I envisioned this knife being stuck down in the boot or lashed to a dirty sailor on a forgotten submarine somewhere for some reason, and I just kind of ran with that idea. I gave it the name Deadwater as it kind of seemed to fit, and crossed my fingers and I submitted the design. Now from the time I submitted the design to the time the finals were announced, it was several months, and in this time I just completely forgot about it. Yet midway through my honeymoon, in fact, as I lounged in the shade in the corner of the hotel pool, I happened to pull up Facebook and I was instantly left in disbelief as I saw I was one of the 10 finalists. Now I was up against some absolutely killer competition. Outside one or two, I'd argue almost all were better than mine. I'd spent just a really few quick minutes with my sketches, and yet looking at all these mock-ups, you could easily tell some people really poured some time into theirs. And regardless, I was just really thrilled and happy to be included. Throughout the week, everybody had a chance to vote for their 3 favorites, and when the dust finally settled, my design came in second, just narrowly missing out on first place by just a handful of votes. On one hand, I was disappointed, of course. I came so close and just narrowly missed out on signing a contract with my favorite knife company to produce one of my own designs. But on the other hand, I'd come in second, much undeserved, and I would be able to get a selected knife of my choice as a reward. I was also able to shop my design to other makers, which, spoiler alert, I actually have, and I've actually signed a contract, so we'll see if that ever gets produced. If it does, I'll make sure to let you guys know. Since I finished second, I was able to pick up a knife of my choosing within reason. There were some restrictions, like it couldn't be from their premium line and it couldn't have been a new release. There was actually some confusion on what qualified and what didn't, but regardless, I ended up picking a rather expensive knife and I got it delivered to my door without spending a cent. So even though I didn't win, I still think I got a pretty good deal. So is this knife worth $300? No. It's Chinese made, not numbered, doesn't feature really any crazy milling or handcrafted work, it's just another production folder. I feel like this should be much closer to the $200 mark, and even then, that's kind of on the high end. My cost was again $0, so I'm very happy with it, but I'm sure I would not be if I paid the full retail amount. That said, don't get me wrong, because it's a really, really cool looking knife. because just look at it. All black titanium handles with a super crazy cool Damascus inlay. It's really like nothing I've ever seen before. This also looks a little bit different with the blue thumb stud. It just has a really unique look. This knife just doesn't really look like anything else out there. With the inlays, the thumb stud, and just the shape of the blade and the handle, it just looks really foreign and interesting. This also features a titanium pocket clip, and due to the really slim profile of this handle, this almost feels like a gentleman's folder and is extremely comfortable to carry in the pocket. It's a real bummer that the cheapest variant of this knife is still around the $170 mark, because if this came with some cheaper materials like aluminum or micarta, and then a lesser blade steel like 14C 28N or 154cm, this would be such a cool little knife. I really like this footprint, and I feel like a budget version would go off really well. I mentioned the thumb disc earlier. I'm not sure if I've ever had a knife before with one. I can't really recall. Kizer is known for the really great smooth action, and this is no different here. You can either use the thumb disc or the front flipper, and I've been on record against front flippers, so I'm strictly team thumb stud, or in this case thumb disc. It works really well, and the action is about what you'd expect. This is a frame lock. It's extremely solid lockup. It's really easy to access the lock bar and disengage. It's just a really smooth operation here. I know this was kind of a different video than I normally put out. It wasn't a full-on review and kind of more of a story, but I thought both were too cool not to share. So I'd love your thoughts about it all in the comments below. Did you manage to vote in the Kizer contest? And more importantly, did you vote for yours truly? No, I'm kidding, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about the designs and if I made the right choice picking this model as my prize. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.